The UK's illegal immigration crisis is spiraling out of control, and let's be honest here, the current government is largely to blame. Let's take a moment to understand what's really going on. Illegal immigration has always been a challenge for the UK, but since Starmer and the Labour Party took office, things have gone from bad to worse. They came in with the promises of more compassionate approaches. But the reality? It's a mess. Instead of tackling the issue head-on, they've made a series of decisions that have only made the situation more chaotic and, frankly, even more dangerous. In today's video, we're going to dissect how the Labour government's mishandling of immigration has fueled a crisis that is now at a breaking point. What we're seeing at the UK shores is nothing short of an absolute disaster. The number of small boats crossing the English Channel has reached record levels. This July, over 700 people made the journey in just one day. These aren't just numbers. They're a sign of a system that's completely overwhelmed and broken. But here is where it gets really worrying. Many of these people are arriving without any form of identification. We have absolutely no idea who they are, where they're coming from, or what their intentions might even be. And yet, they're entering the country unchecked. This isn't just a failure of border security. It's a serious threat to public safety. So what exactly is the government doing about it? Well, not much. Starmer's decision to scrap the Rwanda deportation scheme was touted as a more humane approach, but all it's done is remove one of the few deterrents that we actually had that worked. And with no clear plan in place, we're seeing more illegal crossings than ever before.
I'm afraid that these huge numbers are sadly going to grow. It's easy to get here. I know, sadly, people are going to lose their lives as well, but they don't see it that way. And I'm afraid until we start making it clear that coming across in dinghies is not going to work, people are not going to be allowed to stay here, whether they present documents or not, whether they present false documents or not, until we can make that clear, then I'm afraid they will continue to come, and even more than did in the past year.
Let's just take a look at the stats. Since Labour took over, the number of illegal immigrants crossing into the UK has skyrocketed. Net migration is projected to hit 350,000 a year. That is a massive increase compared to previous years, and it's largely because of the Labour government's weak stance on illegal immigration. Under previous governments, particularly during Boris Johnson's tenure, there were at least attempts to curb this trend, like the Rwanda deportation plan, controversial as it may have been. But under Labour, well, we're seeing higher numbers than ever, and it really makes you wonder if they've got any real solutions up their sleeves.
How do you stop the boats? More than 23,000 migrants have crossed the Channel so far this year. This is a humanitarian and a political crisis.
There's 58,000 spaces here.
Keir Starmer wants to show he can succeed where the government has not. Meeting officials at Europol with a plan he says can turn the tide.
The government has lost control of our borders, and we can see that with the number of crossings there are across the Channel in small boats. We have to stop that. And I think the only way to stop that is to smash the gangs that are running this vile trade.
Very quickly, Rwanda scheme, is that dead and buried?
That's three, Kate, in one. Look, the Rwanda scheme was dead and buried before it started. It's never been a deterrent. Look at the numbers that have come over in the first 6 and a bit months of this year. They're record numbers. That is the problem that we are inheriting. It has never acted as a deterrent, almost the opposite.
The decision to scrap the Rwanda scheme without a viable alternative is a textbook example of Labour's ineptitude. It's not just about removing a deterrent, it's about sending a message that the UK's borders are wide open, and now we're paying the price for their naive approach.
Well, the Labour government have the audacity to tell the public to basically get used to these boat crossings for the next 12 years. What they are doing is they're expanding asylum centres, so they hold greater capacity. They're apparently having greater cooperation with the European governments to smash the gangs. Nothing about a deterrent, nothing about the fact that when the people actually finally find a way to make it to our shores, they virtually cannot be removed. Nothing about the fact that even the people that go through the safe and legal process of asylum, who are often rejected, just are not removed. I mean, even people that tell you that, oh, we should have safe and legal routes for these people to apply for asylum.
The Labour government's slow response to this crisis is just grossly inexcusable. Despite the mounting pressure, they've dragged their feet on critical issues, like appointing a head for the new Border Security Command. Now, this delay has left our borders more vulnerable than ever before. Political figures like Priti Patel have been vocal in their criticism, and rightfully so. Patel has called out the government for being tone-deaf to the public's concerns, and it's really hard to argue with her on that. The Labour Party's inaction is putting the country at risk, and even the public knows it.
The case law in this country is so lax when it comes to who gets granted asylum compared to many other European countries. So when it is absolutely true, our case law is so weak, we allow pretty much anyone in, and anyone we reject, we can't deport anyway. This blind, virtue-signalling, self-righteous, bleeding heart liberal claptrap believing just because you're an asylum seeker, that makes you a good person. The Parsons Green bomber, the maternity hospital bomber, the man that killed 3 gay men in Reading, all asylum seekers.
And speaking of the public, there's a growing sense of anger and frustration. People are taking to social media to express how unsafe and ignored they feel. The Labour Department seems completely out of touch with the realities facing ordinary Britons. And it's not just immigration that's causing problems. The Labour Department's incompetence is spilling over into other areas and spaces as well. For example, take the ongoing train strikes. Train drivers are getting hefty pay raises while still holding the country to ransom with their strikes. This is just another example of how the Labour government is failing to manage the country's most pressing issues. And the broader impact of all of this? The UK is facing economic strain, social unrest, and a government that seems more interested in political posturing and putting people in jail for internet posts than they are in actually solving real problems. The public is getting fed up, and honestly, who can blame them? The stakes are high, and the Labour government is proving that they're not quite up to the task. So what's your take on all of this? Make sure you let me know in the comments section down below. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next episode.